UFC Vegas 104. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video too. And also note, I will be live for the entire card Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the fight, companion. And let's get into the first fight on it. We got Yuneisy Duben versus Carli Judice. I gotta go with Yuneisy Duben to win this fight, even though the betting lines will have you deceived in this as an extreme mismatch. If you don't remember Duben's win on Contender Series, it was probably one of the most violent KOs in women's MMA that I've ever seen. She completely starched Shannon Clark, who was the LFA champion, and was a big favorite to beat her on the Contender Series. Yuneisy Duben now again getting completely slept on odds-wise, and it's against a girl that only has 5 pro fights, 3-2 Carli Judice, who also fought on the Contender Series season prior. Ended up losing, actually. Close decision against Ernesta Carrasqueta, and ended up still getting a contract. Carrasqueta is a talented kickboxer, and Judice has a good striking volume, and I'd say she's effective, but she's definitely not powerful, and I feel like if there's big shots landing, I really have to favor the damage side of Duben. I think she could hurt Carli Judice, even if it's not hurting her and dropping her, it's limiting the effective output because big shots are landing for Duben. I get confused by lines like this. Like, do they think that Duben has no cardio? She's just in a gas after the first round and Judice is just going to run her over? Like, at worst, I see it as a close enough fight for Duben. Maybe she gets outpaced and outworked over the 3 rounds, but still sitting in there and throwing big shots. I don't think she's getting finished. I don't think Carli Judice is blast double-legging her and choking her out. I don't think Judice is knocking her out with a head kick. I don't think she's dropping her with a straight punch. More likely, if there's a finish in this fight, I think Duben could separate Judice from consciousness. The physical frame that Duben has simply just exerts more power, right? There's just naturally a more thud on a punch of somebody with the, shorter, stockier build than Carli Judice, who's like rather on the skinny side. Like, she's pretty cut up, but definitely not like the definition of like explosive power and physical strength. More of a girl that looks like she can go, 3 hard rounds. And we've seen her. She throws a lot of punches, but again, doesn't have much power. Duben has the one-shot KO power. I think there's like a misconception, maybe by the books, that have her, as like a brawler or something like that. She does have like a pressure-based power style, but she got a long background in like traditional martial arts too. So she's essentially done some form of like kickboxing since she's a little kid. And I think the gifted power is real. Her boxing skills are pretty solid. Like, even if you just watch her rip the bag a bit, for women's MMA, her hands are pretty fucking good. And unless somehow she has absolutely no gas tank, which I just don't believe that to be the case, or if somehow she had 0 takedown defense, to be honest, I doubt Judice is getting her to the ground. But hypotheticals, then maybe Judice pulls through. But the odds that we're looking at are just absolute disgrace because they don't make sense. I'm going to say Duben can win live for a knockout, but it wouldn't even shock me if she won a decision here over Judice. Judice is a southpaw, but I can see Duben cracking her and busting her nose up bad. And I don't know, I can see Judice getting hit with a big shot and be like, oh shit, this girl hits different. I think Duben has a different type of power for women's MMA. She's got a lot of finishes, a lot of low-level opponents, fair. But I think that she's putting it all together now. She's definitely probably like substantial improvements between fights. I mean, she's in the UFC now, right? So she has the tools and resources at her fingertips to really grow her skill set. And she's already got some natural ability. Plus 335. I'm saying Duben pulls through. I don't give a shit about the lines, man. Minus 405 for Judice. This shouldn't be the odds. What at open were they? Like minus 650 for Judice. I don't get it. I don't think Carli Judice is that good. She's got 5 pro fights, 3-2, good volume. Like, okay, she was competitive with Gabby Fernandez, but am I sure that in a striking fight, Duben couldn't rock Gabby Fernandez? Could she not catch Ernesta Carrasqueta? I don't think the striking level gap between Judice or her opponents And Duben is like this different jump, right? Like, oh, well, Duben, she's, just coming into a debut here, but she's got a win on contender and Judice Law. She's got more pro fights. Yeah, some of them low level, but still pro fights. I don't get the lines. The over is minus 145. Don't be shocked when Duben has a more well-versed skill set than people will anticipate. But ultimately, she has the thudding power that I think is fight changing. Even if it isn't fight ending power in this matchup, she catches Judice with a big shot. I could see Judice shying away from a more typical high volume approach and maybe looking to implement a grappling style game plan, but I don't think so. I don't know. I see Duben as just the more physically matured woman also. And I'm going to say that physicality and power and more skill than anticipated. I think Duben is live for a win. I think she can pull through. I'm not fully sold yet on Duben, like as far as making a run, but I do know that Judice is 26. She's 0-1 in the UFC. Yeah, it was against a decent opponent and a girl in Hernandez who's coming off a nice win over Kong Wang, but we're not doing this MMA math bullshit. Duben's live to win, and I'm picking her to win. And I think this fight is way more competitive than the odds have it. So give me Duben a pull through. I think she is live for a finish, but wouldn't be shocked if she ended up taking on the cards, honestly. Next fight, Josiane Nunes versus Priscilla Cachoeira. I'm going to pick Josiane Nunes. She's a bit better. Like, if you watch Priscilla Cachoeira, you see a lot of inefficiencies with her technique. She's very wild with her striking. Now, granted, that type of wild striking style at times can, cause for weird punches to sneak through the guard, and she can land, strange shots and maybe get like a wild punch that gets through and rocks Nunes. But we saw her do it to Lipski, right? She knocked her out quick. That was 2.5 years ago. Since then, Maverick loss, Jazz Davicius loss. Granted, two girls that are more grappling based, but we've seen her barely get past Ji Yoon Kim. She could have lost that damn fight. And Josiane Nunes, say what you want about performances. I mean, the Cavalcante fight, Cavalcante's a technician. She lost a close split decision, and she was backing Cavalcante up. The Chelsea Chandler fight wasn't great, but Chandler did have the grappling option, right? And she was a huge woman compared to Josiane Nunes. Priscilla Cachoeira, I mean, we've seen her fight at 125 consistently, now moving up officially to 135 pounds, even though she's a good amount taller than Nunes, doesn't really have like a size edge or a physicality edge. And then as far as the reach, you got 2 inches towards Nunes, which I think is why, even though she's very short, she's still like effective at finding punches. She beat Zara Farron, who's very tall. Like, these wins are not great. Bia Malecki, not like high level opposition wins, but consistently performing okay, at least against like fellow strikers, like the Cavalcante fight. Priscilla Cachoeira is more of a brawler, so I can see Cachoeira landing some big looping shots and then Nunes firing some big ones back. I got a feeling this is going to be a pretty weird women's fight. Definitely high probability of some violence between the two, because I do think both will be willing to brawl. And the way Cachoeira fights, the nickname is valid. She is the zombie girl. But I think Nunes takes it on the cards. I think she'll land a little more significant of strikes, man. At times, Cachoeira just really starts looping and digging uppercuts with like absolute telegraphs. Like, it's coming from a mile away. And I just don't think Nunes is going to sit there and get caught with stupid shots. She's got a decent Muay Thai striking style with some solid pressure. She's in decent shape, southpaw stance, kind of like a poor woman's Jessica Andrade, honestly. Like the great value Andrade is kind of what Nunes is. And I think that's enough to beat a journeywoman like Priscilla Cachoeira. So I'm going to say Nunes pulls through. Fairly competitive fight. I'm interested in the matchup. I mean, I think the ladies will make it fun and could be like a cult classic at the Apex. Minus 190 for Nunes. Cachoeira at plus 165. Do we think it goes distance? I feel like it does. Over 2.5, minus 160. You know what? I'll say this about Cachoeira. If she catches Nunes with one of those shovel uppercuts from last week and lands it clean on the chin, there's definitely a chance Nunes could get rocked. But the fact that Nunes got those big traps and that real short neck, I feel like she eats a good punch, man. So I'm going to say Josiane Nunes, 2 rounds to 1, probably a competitive decision, takes it on the judges' scorecards, and which should be a pretty fun fight. and I hope for some chaotic exchanges. And I do think we'll get them. I think towards the end of the fight, especially, both girls might stand in the center and just slug it out for the last like 10, 15 seconds. So should be a good ladies fight. I'll pick Nunes to win it. I think she's better technically. Also 5 years younger, has a little more of like a trending potential upward. Whereas with Cachoeira, we know her level, and it's pretty mid-level, but fun to watch, right? She's a good brawling journeywoman. Unorthodox style, but ultimately leaves openings. There's holes in the striking flow, and I think Nunes a tad bit better than that. Next fight on the card, André Lima versus Daniel Barez. I think this is pretty clear as day. André Lima should win. It's more about how does he win. Daniel Barez got submitted pretty bad in the UFC debut here against Filho, but Filho is kind of a submission ace, and Barez's striking is good, though. Early in fights, Barez's striking is real nice. Does tend to slow a little bit towards the third round. Got that win over Victor Altamirano, and I picked him there, and he was a slight underdog. But I don't think he's handling André Lima. He's 10 years the senior of Lima, and I feel like at 10-0, Lima's skill set seems to be evolving at a pretty high rate. I don't think that the O is going on this fight right here. I don't think Daniel Barez is the guy to check Lima. I definitely see Lima's potential, though. Like right now, I mean, Tapology has him in the top 25. Take that with a grain of salt. It's the Tapology rankings, but is it crazy to imagine Lima in the top 15 in the next 15, 16 months? No. His Muay Thai is clean, pretty skilled on the feet, but also showcased some grappling against Felipe Dos Santos. And a lot of people honestly believed Dos Santos would be the better grappler of the two. The win over Raposo was not a split decision. It was a clear win. The Severino fight was weird. He got bit in the octagon. I feel like André Lima has shown evolution as well. Even from that debut about a year ago to now, he's better. Striking skill set, elusive, technical, pretty proficient in all areas. Even though Barez is like kind of slick early, I have a hard time seeing Barez doing significant damage early in the fight. I mean, at best, maybe he could win the first round, but I could see him getting outworked for all 3 rounds here. I'm kind of just feeling like André Lima pulls off a decision in this one. Wins some of the striking exchanges, maybe even the majority. Don't be shocked if potentially tired Barez is then taken down by Lima and controlled a bit. I'm going to say Lima by unanimous decision. I like the highly skilled Muay Thai. I like the well-versed skill set with the grappling game evolving. Kicking skill set is pretty smooth. His hands are not bad either. And I feel like Barez kind of has to rely on slick striking, right? And he'd have to really catch Lima with some big shots to make Lima respect him or maybe even fear him substantially. Then Barez could get into a flow. But it's just hard for me to envision Barez winning all 3 rounds. And I think it's a low likelihood of him knocking Lima out. Not that Barez doesn't have any pop, right? He's got some shots in his hands that he could rip, but I don't know, man. Sub seems unlikely in this type of matchup. You might be telling you, oh, but he got a submission, bro. The dude was 6-9, right? There's levels. Barez is not bad on the ground per se, but I don't think he's like mid to high level UFC grappling, right? When he got to this level, he looks decent. I think he's 36. He's old for the flyweight division. I don't think he's like completely washed because of his age. I'm not picking against him just because he's 36. I think Lima just has a lot of potential. He's growing every single fight. I feel like this fight against Felipe Dos Santos was kind of a breakout performance for him because it was a pretty clear win. And I feel like Lima can get a hard-fought win over, a talented guy in Daniel Barez, but somebody that's not going to, surge towards the top of the flyweight division. Way more potential on the Lima side. The rate of improvement's going to be better. His ceiling's, 1,000 times higher. And I think Lima's pretty primed and ready to go for a W against a guy like Barez, who's 1-1 in the UFC. Kind of very favorable matchmaking for Lima as well. He's a big favorite, as he should be. Minus 275 for André Lima. I don't disagree with that type of tag. Plus 235 for Daniel Barez. So the pick is going to be Lima. He should pull through in a clear decision. Over 2.5, minus 175. I would love to start seeing some finishes for Lima, but I feel like Barez's striking is not bad, though. He's still smooth enough on the feet that I don't see him getting flattened. Lima hasn't shown in the UFC that finishing ability just yet. His only finish is a DQ win, and that ain't a finish. That's a damn DQ. So I think Lima to get it on the cards. I think you could take all 3 rounds, to be honest with you. I could see a 30-27, but maybe Barez could, sneak by on one of the judges' scorecards in a close round. But ultimately, Lima, I think the better fighter. More well-versed guy too, younger guy, more explosive, more athletic. And I think with a pretty high caliber skill set in all areas and being 10 years younger, you have to assume that he wins a pretty clear fight. So I'm going to say Andre Lima for the W. Let's keep moving. Next fight on the card, we have Josias Musasa versus Carlos Vera. So I'm going to pick Josias Musasa, but the odds are crazy for this fight. I didn't look at odds until after the picks because, like I tell you guys a lot, who gives a shit with the odds, man? You got to get the analysis first, and then you can look at the odds after. It's a secondary to the fighting. It's not one with fighting. It's a second aspect of the game. And Carlos Vera, he's experienced. He's got more pro fights. He is 37, though, but he went distance against Rinya Nakamura. He was on The Ultimate Fighter, and he lost to Brad Katona, but he was competitive in moments in that fight. He's got good jiu-jitsu. He trains at Ryan Hall's gym. He's actually the striking coach there. He's got a Taekwondo background. He's fought in kickboxing. It's just Josias Musasa is so much more explosive and athletic, man. It's a difference in the speed of the shots and the cleanness of the punches. The way Carlos Vera wins this fight is an awkward scramble and grappling that gives him some type of submission attempt, whether it's even potentially to lock up a leg in some type of leg entanglement, or maybe taking Musasa's back and choking him out. But I feel like that's kind of like a 2 out of 10 call. Like it's a 20% chance. It doesn't seem high likelihood that Vera wins as a dog here. I don't agree, though, with the odds. I think they're extremely wide. I feel like Musasa is good for sure. I mean, the dude has a crazy chin. He's very conditioned. He's physically strong, and he's got a gas tank. And he brings consistent forward pressure. He's fighting out of southpaw. I feel like he showed even some solid get-up game against his most recent opponent, Tanilov, I believe was the name, Tenzilovi. There we go. And that kid was training with Merab Dvalishvili and supposedly taking him down in training. So I feel like Musasa beat a pretty blue chip prospect on the Contender Series. And I will only assume the 26-year-old is better than he was, nearly 6 months ago. And now he's taking on a 37-year-old Carlos Vera who doesn't fight often. He fought a year ago. Then he fought a year before in the Contender Series, The Ultimate Fighter. Then he fought, 2.5 years ago in Fury. I feel like Musasa lands more significant shots, fends off the grappling attack. He probably gets a close one here. I don't think he wipes the floor with Carlos Vera. I mean, with Musasa's power, he could catch Vera's chin and flatten him, but nah. I think Vera might fall to his back a bit and trying to bait Musasa into grappling, but I could see Musasa letting him back up, winning some of the striking exchanges. I know Vera's a striking coach and he's, formerly done kickboxing, but very kick-based striking style, whereas I feel like Musasa's a lot better with his hands, and I would rather have the better hands with okay kicks than having pretty good kicks with meh hands. You can kind of see that Vera's boxing is not of the highest degree as far as his skill set goes, and he's taking on a guy with Musasa that I think has the power and the grappling defense to win him the fight. So I'm going to pick Musasa as a prospect. I think that, the youth factor, the athleticism factor, the freak physicality factor, I expect him to walk Vera down. I could see him catching Vera with a big punch and putting his lights out, but hard to say that he definitely will because Vera has showcased, an ability to find ways to survive in fights. Granted, though, the Rinya Nakamura fight was a contrary style, right? Rinya Nakamura is just wrestling and control. Musasa is a knockout puncher. Even though he didn't win by knockout on Contender Series, he still absolutely can crack. But yeah, the pick is going to be Musasa. I'm going with the KO wizard in this fight here. And it's really wide. It's minus 650. Like I said, I don't really agree with the tag. I feel like that is giving too much credit to Musasa. He opened up at minus 550. Wow. I see it as a closer fight. I think 3-1 or even 2-1 is fair because Vera's aging. He's towards the end of his run, and he's not an active fighter per se, right? Fighting once a year isn't active. But ultimately, him being this big of a dog with a lot of experience and fighting on the Ultimate Fighter against a guy making his debut that has under 10 fights, little weird to me. Minus 185 from Musasa's over 1.5 in the fight. It's live to go over a round and a half. I think Vera could survive. I don't think Vera has a glass chin. But I will say, if Musasa is consistent with pressure, landing big shots and like on his ass all night, and Vera can't really survive with grappling exchanges, doesn't get a lot of effective striking going, I could see the power of Musasa eventually breaking Vera. But hard to say which round that would be in, because Musasa does have the one-shot power, but I respect the veteran savviness of Vera, so maybe a later stage KO from Musasa. But ultimately, I think Musasa wins the fight. I think it's KO or decision. He's either going to land some big ones and put Vera out, or Vera's chin's going to hold up. Musasa will win most of the exchanges and get a hard-fought win. And, he probably will have to fend off some takedowns. I think he's going to. He's just substantially more explosive and substantially more athletic than Vera. So I have to favor Musasa in the matchup here, even though a young prospect that hasn't fought like hyper-elite competition, right? Carlos Vera at 37 doesn't seem to be the guy to fraud check Musasa. I don't think so. I don't think Musasa's getting checked here. But damn, the betting lines suck, man. The betting lines are crazy in this fight. This is not a minus 625. It's not a lock of the year. Like I said, there's like a 2 out of 10 chance that Vera could pull off something weird because he does have a tricky and unorthodox style. But I feel like Musasa is kind of that workhorse that can overwhelm and overcome against a guy like Carlos Vera. So going to go with Josias Musasa, KO Wizard, to pull through. Let's keep running up the card. Next matchup on it, we have Dr. Nurgozhay versus Brenson Ribeiro. I like the side of Nurgozhay. I liked him on the Contender Series. I like him in this matchup a lot. When you look at Brenson Ribeiro, I mean, he absolutely looks sensational in his Contender Series fight with a huge upset win over Bruno Lopez. That was a badass knockout in the first round, and Bruno Lopez is not looking bad inside of the UFC. And then making his UFC debut, Ming Yang Zhang, who's a tremendous prospect, absolutely starched him violently. Fight following that, he was competitive with Magomed Gadzhiesulov, lost a majority decision. Gadzhiasulov's not even in the UFC anymore. They booted him out after his loss. Like, we ain't interested in this guy. Bruno Lopez actually handled Gadzhiesulov. And then most recent fight was a close win against Kyle Machado. He won like a good amount of the striking exchanges, but he left things to be desired. And I feel like it made me question the legitimacy of this knockout artist hype that Brenson Ribeiro has kind of gotten because of his win over Lopez. Nurgozhay is crafty on the feet, man. He's got a smooth style. Like, I like the way that he closes distance. He picks his shots well. He got a high kick knockout win. His dexterity is pretty surprising for a guy with kind of like a stockier, chubby build. At light heavyweight, he dropped the head kick on Chefwick in violent fashion. That was a nice W, man. Yeah, it was Chefwick. I want to make sure I got the name right, Even though he got knocked out, he deserves a proper shout. He went 2 rounds. I like the power striking. I do think he has this really weird twitch, though. He like picks at his eye and it like blinks strangely throughout the fight. I don't know if you guys, picked up on that pattern. Very interesting. His striking attack is patient. Nurgozhay's 27 years old, but his calmness in fights is something that I like a lot. Also, he's got a nasty uppercut and a power hook as well. His skill set is pretty dangerous. I just think his potential seems very high. I know for a fact Brenson Ribeiro being, in a spot where kind of make or break, right? A loss here, you could get released from the UFC. I see Nurgozhay more pushing towards top 15. I see a pretty violent win for him. I think he's going to destroy Brenson Ribeiro, actually. And normally I like Ribeiro. He might actually try and grapple here, but I feel like Nurgozhay's takedown defense looks pretty solid. He's going to fuck Brenson Ribeiro up bad. The more I play this fight out in my head, I see Ribeiro getting absolutely wrecked. Fight before the Contender Series win, too, was a W over Emiliano Sordi, who now Nurgozhay's actually training with. He was in the corner in the damn Contender Series fight, which I thought was pretty cool. And Sordi's fought at a high level outside of the UFC, and he ran him over. So I think Nurgozhay's got something special, man. At 27 years old, we need light heavyweight prospects, and I could see Nurgozhay closing in on top 15. If the takedown defense looks good, specifically in other matches, I don't think Brenson Ribeiro's wrestle fucking him, but forthcoming, if the chin can hold up, if he takes a clean shot, with the precision on his striking and the knockout power and the dexterity in his legs, because he's a surprisingly good kicker for a light heavyweight, he could fuck a lot of people up at 205, and I'm all here for it. So DR Njokuani for the W, and I think it's a violent win incoming. He deserves a pretty fair size tag. I'm seeing minus 310 for him. I think I'm in alignment with that. Yeah. He should be about a 3-1 favorite. He should get a knockout in the first 2 rounds. Ribeiro plus 260. I see Nurgozhay chinning him. As far as over-under, I would say under 2.5 is better. They got an over 1.5. I could see Ribeiro caught in the under 1.5. I could see him getting caught in a storm. I could see him getting caught up in some crazy shit earlier on. I could see a first or second round KO. I think the Kazakh fighter is pretty damn good, man. I think the hype is kind of real on this dude. Just the patience in his striking flow, the way he holds his guard, the way he throws his punches, the way his body moves inside of the octagon, and the way he rips shots, both with his punches and with his kicks. I see something in this guy. With Nurgozhay, when I saw it on Contender, I'm like, yo, it looked good. And then when I rewatched, it's like, this guy's got something. This guy is something. This guy's something to keep an eye on. So I look forward to his future in the UFC, and I think he starts it off with a highlight reel win over, the gritty Brennison Ribeiro, but not super high level. Njokuani for the W. Next fight on the card, we got the ladies going after it. We got Sam Hughes versus Stephanie Luciano. I sat on this one for a while, no lies, but I think I'm going to go with Stephanie Luciano. She's got a jiu-jitsu skill set too, even though it's not, on paper, elite level. I feel like her grappling efficiency in a defensive setting should be pretty sound. And then as far as her striking, she's really clean in the stand-up department. She's going to have a speed advantage striking over Sam Hughes. I think she'll be better from the outside. She picks her shots nicely. She's got a good volume attack. Her gas tank looks good. She absolutely dominated Alan Carr in the rematch and showed really good takedown defense in the fight. As far as the striking battle goes, Sam Hughes has a good pressure / volume type attack. She's a gritty fighter, a gritty scrapper, I guess you could say. And she's in pretty good physical condition. She comes in ready for a hard 3 rounds, there's no doubt. And that's why she can keep volume up. And that's why she pulls off some of these upsets against girls that are supposed to beat her. She checks Victoria Dudakova. She beat Jacqueline Emmerich, was a good grappler. But against a proficient striking prospect who I see is pretty slick with good footwork, I just think that Sam Hughes doesn't have the wrestling game to be substantially threatening to Luciano. The only way I see Sam Hughes winning this fight, unless I'm overrating Luciano substantially, which I don't believe I am, it would be that Luciano does some type of damage early in the fight and goes very hard for a first round finish, and then was to fatigue. But not really in Luciano's repertoire. She's not a big power hitter. She's more of a precision striker, and I see her landing a lot of punches and kicks. I see Sam Hughes chasing her down. Actually, there's a fight that you can kind of use to compare what this fight will look like, and it's this Yasmin Jauregui fight. Lucindo is somewhat similar to that striking style. Not exactly. Of course, there's differences, but takedown defense, good footwork. I think Sam Hughes gets outstriked for 3 rounds, and I think that Stephanie Luciano takes home a unanimous decision W in her sophomore appearance in the UFC. She's good. She's good. She's good. Striking flow is nice. As far as, picking her shots, she does it well. Her calmness is good. And to take out a 9-6 Sam Hughes, yeah. Sam Hughes also due for a loss. She's win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. She's coming off a win. She beat Dudakova. And honestly, her wrestling really didn't look that good in the fight. And Dudakova's grappling kind of got exposed against even Jin Frey and then really badly against Fatima Klein. So I don't think Hughes's grappling efficiency is all that high against a girl with good footwork and decent takedown defense, some jiu-jitsu. I feel like Luciano's premier level striking, because I'd say it's pretty good. I like the stand-up. I'm pretty impressed by it. I say technically outpoint Sam Hughes over the 3 rounds in a similar win as Jauregui got over Sam Hughes. I'll say Luciano, unanimous decision. As far as the odds, let's see. Luciano sits at minus 230, so she's a fair size favorite, but she should be here. plus 210 for Hughes. I know there will be a good portion of people jumping on the Sam Hughes train because she's a tough girl. She always fights for your money. She brings good pressure. Like, I get it. But I feel like Luciano's style is just not a great matchup for Hughes. You have to kind of recognize in certain spots with a prospect that seems to have real promise in the stand-up and has shown takedown defense. And also, to be fair, she fought Alencar twice, right? So she showed an improved rate of takedown defense substantially in the second time. And Alencar, say what you want about her striking, say what you want about her being short and all that shit. But ultimately, she was a high caliber grappler. And in the second fight, Luciano just styled on her. So I think Luciano can handle the grappling attack that Sam Hughes might try and bring. And as far as the striking goes, the sharper blade is Luciano. So I'll pick her to win. Over 2.5 is minus 450. Probably. Ultimately, Luciano, unanimous decision. Second UFC fight. You know what? I think it's Luciano's advantage that she's not undefeated. Seeing that close loss on her record, it takes the pressure off. And a year of undefeated fighters taking L's, I think this is good for Luciano. Even though I see some fighters that are undefeated holding that undefeated record on this card. I'm going to say Luciano, unanimous decision. I can see 30-27, to be honest. She'll win most of the striking exchanges with a clear speed edge. And I just think she's technically superior as far as the stand-up game goes. And takedown defense should hold up. So, Luciano for the win. Next fight, it is our featured prelim of the night. Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus a new look heavyweight Ryan Spann. I'm going to pick heavyweight Ryan Spann to beat Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Now, I will tell you guys, I want to see how Ryan Spann looks at weigh-ins. I tried to find a post on Instagram as of right now. Did not see any updated posts from him because I'm curious what type of heavyweight is he going to be. Curious what he's going to weigh in at. Is he going to be a 225-pound heavyweight? Or is he going to be 260? Like, I don't know. Did he bulk up? Like, what has he been eating? Is he going to fucking McDonald's every weekend? Or is he absolutely dialed into like a bulking diet and he's put on some real muscle tissue? And now we have like Superman Spann 2.0. I want to find out because Waldo Cortes-Acosta is really not that good. He's in the top 15, but his most recent win is a victory over Rebellis Despain. Is that really a top 15 earning win? Despain then went on to lose to Austin Lane, was released in the UFC. I don't think Waldo should be ranked top 15, but they have him ranked there. And then fight before that, he beat old man André Arlovski, and it was actually a pretty competitive fight. It's not like he washed out André Arlovski for the whole thing. He likes to swing those wild overhand shots. He's got that baseball background, and you can see it in the way that he throws that power shot. Knockout of Lucas Drezhki. At the time, it was impressive, but Drezhki's pretty bad. And Rogerio de Lima kind of exposed the leg kicks as a big weakness for Acosta. I'm curious if Ryan Spann rips some leg kicks. I do think Spann is faster with his hands. Normally, Waldo has a speed advantage, right? When you look at where's Waldo at heavyweight, compared to, a good majority of them, he's normally the faster guy. He does have a pro boxing background. He wasn't very good as a pro boxer. I think he was like 6-4, so kind of like mid-tier journeyman. But ultimately, Ryan Spann is explosive and powerful, coming up in weight from 205. When he is on one, Ryan Spann is terrifying, and maybe he can be more consistent at heavyweight. Maybe not cutting any weight is going to be better for him, and Ryan Spann looks like the most terrifying version of himself ever. I think he's live for a finish. I think it's inside distance. I wonder how does he finish it. I could see him hurting Waldo with the shot, but also wouldn't be shocked if Ryan Spann showcased some grappling in this fight. I do know that Ryan Spann's grappling skills at times can be underrated, but he's got some good submissions. Subbed up, a washed OSP last time, but he rocked him first and then he subbed him. And I think the strike speed advantage is going to be real here. I think he can catch Waldo with a big punch. It's not like he's given up height in this fight. He's going to have an inch in reach and an inch in height. I think Spann's chin holds up pretty good. I feel like at heavyweight, he might be like a new look Ryan Spann. And I think a light heavyweight moving up to heavyweight, this should be a little easier. I just think it's the right move, man, because Waldo should not be ranked right now. I mean, actually, seeing that there's like 35 heavyweights on the roster, who gives a fuck? At this point, they're just ranking anybody at heavyweight. But I think Ryan Spann with the win breaks into that top 15 and things get really interesting. I see Spann's power as an effective aspect. I see Spann's timing as an effective aspect. I see Spann's precision as an effective aspect and his submission threat. He's the more well-versed fighter, a significant amount more experience than his opponent, Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I know he's got a 12-1 record, but Don't be fooled into believing that Waldo at 12-1 has some type of championship potential. He does not. He does not. I think Ryan Spann is a higher level of fighter than him. Moving up in weight, I'm very curious to see how things look. And I will predict that Ryan Spann looks pretty good up in weight, and I'm going to pick him to win. And for some reason, he's an underdog. This should be a -110, -110 fight. That's what the line should look like, because Ryan Spann has been in the UFC for a long while now and fighting good guys at light heavyweight. And light heavyweight division is a better division as far as quality of opposition goes in that top 15. -170 for Waldo Cortes-Acosta, who, like, arguably his biggest win in the UFC is what? André Arlovski, a knockout of Lucas Rejki, and that should give you favorite status over Ryan Spann. That's what I'm saying. Even odds would make the most sense. At open, Waldo was -175. Interesting to see that. Just because he's a heavyweight, just because he's in the top 15, he's really not all that. He gets sloppy with his striking at times. In moments with Rebellis Despain, it looked kind of crappy. And then he out-grappled Rebellis Despain, but what does that mean? Despain has no grappling. He's doing karate combat now, as he should. Over 1.5, maybe. I don't know. Not really interested in that. I think Spann's a good underdog. I'm picking him as a dog here. I think he's live to pull through. I could see a submission. I could see a knockout. I do think that his strike speed is a valuable factor in this one. I think the submission threat could be real, because I'm thinking about, like, the opposition of Waldo. Best guy that he's fought, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He got beat up for 3 rounds. Best grappler that he fought wasn't even in the UFC. It was Thomas Peterson, who was a wrestler, and Peterson had some success taking him down. But ultimately, Thomas Peterson is no submission ace. Ryan Spann, powerful and dangerous striking. On top of that, brings a submission threat to the fight. There could be a club and sub type instance here for Ryan Spann. So the pick is going to be heavyweight Ryan Spann, but the weigh-ins are going to tell me a lot, because I really want to see Ryan Spann at heavyweight as far as his frame, right? I want to see what he looks like not being a light heavyweight anymore. Is it a fat 235, or is it a really shredded in shape 240? I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't seen any recent or updated pictures, but I'm damn excited to find out. Most recent fight was about 5 months ago. Bulking up to heavyweight, 5 months. I mean, you can put on some size. And, Waldo weighs a lot, but I think Spann will be fine. Ryan Spann for the win at heavyweight. He handles Waldo. Next fight brings us to our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. Su Young Yu versus AJ Cunningham. This is such a weird fight for me to pick. And some people say, oh, well, obviously Su Young Yu. Bro, he's really not that good. AJ Cunningham, I understand, looked horrible against Ludovic Klein, but he came in on 5 days' notice. My issue with this fight, and you don't see it here, because no, they fixed it. It says bantamweight. Do you see that? Bantamweight division. Cunningham was fighting at 45, took a short notice fight at 55 rather, and then now is at 35. So I'm like kind of scratching my head. At 45, I wanted to pick AJ Cunningham to win. When I broke it down in my mind first, right, I was thinking, okay, they're doing it at 45 because that's what Tapology said. Then they shifted it, and now I'm seeing that it's actually at 135. So it's getting in my head a bit. I'll tell you guys this. I'm going to make my pick AJ Cunningham because I don't want to go against my initial instinct for the fight. I did not look at the fucking odds, and then I see them and they're -700, and I'm like, what the fuck again? I want to see the weigh-ins, and I want to see how AJ Cunningham weighs in at 135. If he looks near death, then I will predict Su Young Yu puts it on him with a wrestling pace. But if he comes in looking solid on the scales, this could be a completely new career for AJ Cunningham. Right now he is, I believe, working with the Factory X team, right? For the past like 6-ish months, he transitioned from law school MMA to a much higher level gym. And, he's training with, I think, a solid crew. There's sparring rounds with him and Yusuf Zalal, who's very talented at 145. I think Cunningham's rate of improvement could be relatively substantial. As far as Su Young Yu, I wasn't like, wow, against Balgan Jeliisa. I was like, okay, I got some takedowns, had some striking moments. He got hit a bit too. Just had that slight wrestling edge that won him the fight. And it might look similar here, but I just don't think Su Young Yu has this elite potential. They were saying, oh, he's the Asian Habib. Shut up, please. Shut up, please, dog. Please shut up. He's not the Asian Habib. AJ Cunningham's a tough motherfucker, man. The dude was abused to all hell as a fucking child, so I feel for the dude. But I'll tell you this, should have incredible grit, and Yu doesn't really have great finishing ability. So what happens when Yu wins the first 10 minutes and is tired in round 3 with Cunningham throwing bombs at him and walking him down? Could look similar to this loss where Su Young Yu, a little bit over a year ago, completely fucking quit against this guy. People forget about this fight. He got backed up and he just fucking fell over and turtled up after a couple of shots landed. So there's quitting him, there's will. You can say, oh, well, Cunningham, he got dropped with the front kick to the body. All right, Ludovic Klein, teeping you to the fucking stomach, we're all going down from it. And most UFC fighters are going down from it too, outside of maybe some fucking middleweights, you know? Ludovic can snap that front kick on you, and it was a gnarly shot. And it's 5 days notice for Cunningham. And he still was catching Ludovic Klein with shots. There was moments for him. I think AJ Cunningham could pull through. Really weird to see him at 35. So, you know, kind of got me a tad bit confused. I am not a Su Young Yu believer. I am not a believer in Road to UFC, period. I think they tend to produce a lot of overrated talent that has fought at a lower level in Asia and then comes to the UFC and they suck consistently. They lose all the time. Like, how many of them have we seen? We've seen Anshul Jubli, Road to UFC winner. Look how he's doing. Okay, Contender Series is a better show. And yeah, AJ Cunningham lost on Contender Series, but did he not show fucking insane toughness? Insane grit? Is that not why the UFC called him on short notice to fight Ludovic Klein? Because the kid's a gangster? And I got Su Young Yu that's 4 inches shorter, giving up 6 inches in reach and a wrestling style for sure. But Cunningham, I know he's got decent enough jiu-jitsu. I'm not saying he's a high caliber wrestler, but he should be okay on the mat. And it's not like Yu always ends up on top. There's moments where he gets reversed and put on his back. It's weird that it's at 135. It just makes me wonder. I don't know for sure how that's going to look. The weigh-ins will tell me a lot, but my initial instinct in this fight was AJ Cunningham to win, especially if it was taking place at 145. I'll still stick with that as the prediction for 135. But the worry would be at 5'10", AJ Cunningham looks like a bag of bones on the scale and has a really hard weight cut. That will not be good. But if it's a good weight cut and things go smoothly, 5'10", 135, that is a seriously difficult frame to deal with, especially with the grit that Cunningham seems to have and Su Young Yu not being a tremendous finisher. Grappling dominance, but I'm just not super sold, man. I'm not super sold, right? All decisions. People forget all decisions here and a split decision in the in-between. And this loss a year ago, he got broken in that fight. I think AJ Cunningham is more than live. I don't get these freaking odds, man. That's why just throw the odds out the window. Forget about the odds. Look at the fight. AJ Cunningham is not far off. The most recent opposition, Ludovic Klein, is levels above anybody that Su Young Yu fought. And Steve Nguyen, levels above these guys, man. And I'm not saying he's that good, but he's better than Balgan. And he's better than, you know, the other names that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that we saw on saw on Road to UFC for him. He's 5'6" with a 65-inch reach, a bit of wrestling, but I don't know, a bit of a fabricated record. I'm not sold on this guy. This loss is still in my mind. I'm not forgetting it. AJ Cunningham is a tough journeyman, but maybe he's better than that. Let's see. He's at a new team now, which can change a lot of things. He's at a serious gym. I think he can pull through, man. I think a new look AJ Cunningham can win this fight, but definitely need to see the weigh-ins because 135 makes this shit weird. As far as the odds for the fight officially, yeah, we plus 500 for AJ Cunningham? Really? I just don't get that. I don't get it. I don't know what people are seeing in Su Young Yu being minus 700. I don't know what the books are seeing. 700? If you told me 4-1, I'd say, all right, I guess I get it. Even minus 300, I would be like, okay. But fucking 7-1 favorite for Su Young Yu? Did they just listen to the Road to UFC commentary mentioning how he's kind of like a Khabib? And then it's like, oh my God, put this guy as a minus 700 favorite. He is Khabib. No, he's not. No, he's not. AJ Cunningham, yeah, he lost bad in his debut, but it was Ludovic Klein. I think Ludovic Klein would knock out Su Young Yu, who comes in on 5 days' notice pretty easily too. So I think AJ Cunningham is definitely in this fight, and I think he can make it pretty tough. Over a round and a half, minus 200. I think it's rather live to go over with Cunningham's grit and durability, probably keeping him in it. I think his grappling defense will be good enough. Even if he's getting taken down, I think he can escape bad spots, so I think it goes over. And then potentially Cunningham attacking late and just Su Young Yu getting tired towards the end and Cunningham just being relentless, catching him with big shots. There was moments where I said, okay, I see something in this kid against Ludovic. And there was even moments with Steven to win. And then there's him training, and you're seeing he's at a better gym. At times, I don't love his return fire on the right hand. I will say that is a flaw. But I don't think it's a flaw that Su Young Yu exploits in striking, because I don't rate his stand-up all that high. So I'm going to go with the fellow AJ, all right? I'm going with AJ Cunningham for the upset. And I disagree completely with the betting lines, but need to see the scales because it is 135 and Cunningham cutting the extra 10 pounds. Going to be an interesting look. Pretty excited for the fight, though. It's actually got me really intrigued. Next fight on the card, we have Damon Blackshear versus Cody Gibson. This is Damon Blackshear's fight, please. Come on. Damon Blackshear should handle business. Blackshear is pretty crafty. Prime 30-year-old, coming off actually the biggest win of his life against Cody Stamann. Caught him with that flying knee and then strangled the fuck out of him. Blackshear turned up heavy. The fight before, Montel Jackson put him down in one shot. Oh my gosh, man. I was sad that day because I was on Damon Blackshear. I think I had Blackshear as the lock that week. That was before the Savage Lock dog streak, okay? But damn, bro, that was a rough day. And I like Blackshear. I thought he could have got a close decision against Batista. He was tooth and nail in that fight. Week before, he gets a twister win over Jose Johnson, takes a fight on a week's notice, steps in and gives Mario Batista all he can handle. And then Batista goes on to beat Jose Aldo, So kind of crazy how that worked out. Damon Blackshear is still pretty good. I rate him as a decent up-and-comer. I feel like, the 15-7 record is a bit deceiving. You might not realize that he has a well-refined skill set. His striking has gotten better, for sure. But on the ground, he's very crafty with his submissions. He's got strong wrestling. He's just overall got a good athletic base to him, and that I think has allowed him to develop a bit more danger in the stand-up, like throwing that flying knee. And the submission threats are real. He's 5'10" with a 72-inch reach, so got some long arms. Cody Gibson used to being the tallest fella when he's taking people on. I mean, you look, he's fighting against guys like Anheliger, Kelleher, Miles Johns even, Brad Katona, who were a fair amount shorter than him, right? He made it to the finals of The Ultimate Fighter. That's when he fought Brad Katona. Lost that fight. Katona, able to outwork him a bit. Cody Gibson, he looked pretty damn good against Chad Anheliger. Just absolutely fucked him up with wrestling, landing some key takedowns. But it's Chad Anheliger. And he submitted Brian Kelleher pretty, easily, I guess you could say. But so wash Brian Kelleher, too. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Gibson. He's gotten better. And at 37, he still looks pretty good. It's not because of his age I'm picking against him. I just think Damon Blackshear is better at everything Gibson can do. Anything he can do, Blackshear does better, that type of shit. I think Blackshear, submission threat, higher. Power threat, higher. Athleticism, higher. Wrestling, I'd rate it slightly higher. I just think Blackshear probably gets it done. The method of victory is where things I think would get a tad bit murky, right? Because, Cody Gibson's pretty crafty on the floor. Does have 4 submission losses, but when was the last one? It was a while back. All right, he got caught in a Gilly back in 2017, but that was years ago. Actually, he's been caught in a couple Gillies. Interesting. Damon Blackshear, submission ace, kinda. What does he got? 10 wins by sub? I think submission is live for Blackshear, to be honest. The rear naked choke is his money move, and if he can get to the back, I could see him pulling through with it. He has no guillotines? No, he does. Okay. Well, I could see Cody Gibson getting caught in a tight Gilly because Blackshear with those thin, long arms, definitely going to have a squeeze on him on any of his chokes. And Cody Gibson, likes to mix in some wrestling. His striking's not bad. He's got a decent volume attack. Not super powerful, though, but I would rate Cody Gibson as proficient. He's proficient in every area. I definitely think that he holds a UFC roster spot even after this loss. But I think Blackshear, I don't know about top 15. He's close to it. He's in a weird position, right? Bantamweight is so stacked that to get to top 15 is kind of crazy. But I do think he's a top 22 as far as the bantamweight division goes. And I don't really think the same for Cody Gibson. So I'm going to say Damon Blackshear gets a win over Cody Gibson. I think he is live to find the finish by submission as well. Now, he's a big favorite. We got big favorites fucking galore over here. Minus 300 open that. Okay, a little better. I agree with minus 300, to be fair with you. Plus 385 for Gibson. We don't have any props yet, but I want to see what the sub is. Over is minus 205. I got to see that Blackshear sub line. I'm going to assume it's around plus 250, so it won't be amazing. But if it's plus 400, that's a really good prop because I could see him locking up a submission over Cody Gibson. So I still think Gibson may engage in grappling, especially if Blackshear is working some good punches on him, because I think Blackshear's stand-up game is slowly but surely making some solid improvements, and I think he's starting to really come together. And, I've been a believer in Blackshear for a while, to be fair. He had the little fumble against Montel. He got caught by a perfect punch early, but following it up with a nice win over Cody Stamann, which was, I think, the best performance from him, and then fight prior to the loss to, strong puncher and Montel, he went tooth and nail with Batista on a week's notice. Damon Blackshear's got good potential. He's going to handle business. Blackshear, I'll say submission finish in this fight here, but decision not out of the realm of possibility. Submission or decision. We're going Damon Blackshear to pull through and get a little 2-fight win streak going for himself. And as a Blackshear fan, I'm looking forward to this weekend. Next fight on the card, Alexander Hernandez versus Kurt Holobaugh. Ooh, this one's actually an underrated banger. This is going to be a scrap. You got to pick Kurt Holobaugh when you think it's going to be a scrap, because the tougher man between the two is got to be my guy, Kurt Holobaugh. I think he's got more grit. Kurt Holobaugh is nasty in the pocket. His style is gritty, in-your-face pressure, nasty in the close range, dirty boxing in the clinch. And on top of that, he's got a good ground game. Don't write his grappling skills off because of the Trey Ogden fight. Trey Ogden's got some strong wrestling. When Trey Ogden's on one, he's very dangerous. Don't write him off because of him getting outworked in that fight on the ground. He's still got a crafty grappling game, and he's got dangerous striking. He's a great brawler. He's tough as nails, and he's always coming forward. He's a damn fan-friendly style. And Alexander Hernandez, normally in pretty good fights too. He's got a decent kickboxing skill set. He's relatively quick with his kicks, and got some decent lateral movement on him. And I'd say he's okay from range, and his boxing isn't bad, but I feel like he is a bit hittable. I don't know. I see him getting caught a good amount, and we've seen him outworked before. I could give the edge of the dog inside to Kurt Holobaugh, and I think he can win some of the key exchanges in close range. I think he can push Hernandez back, and I think he finishes the fight stronger. Looking at Hernandez last time, Austin Hubbard did some big damage in that third round. Ultimately, Hernandez got the split decision win, and I'm not here to talk about decision going one way or the other, but what I took away from that is, okay, the opposite effect with Holobaugh walking Kainan Krucheski down till the end of the fight, looking to kill him. I just think Kurt Holobaugh is a certified gangster, man. I think Holobaugh's relentless pressure, his gas tank, and his ability to mix up shots in the pocket are going to be a key difference maker between the two. And I expect a pretty fun back and forth fight, but one that I favor Holobaugh winning. I'm going to go with Kurt Holobaugh to pull through, and I think he should do more damage. Good record, too. I mean, Kurt's 21-8. He's won 4 out of his last 5 fights. Yeah, a couple outside the UFC, but he also won the Ultimate Fighter, which deserves respect. The loss is to an absolutely on-point Trey Ogden, but to be fair, Trey Ogden is relatively good. And then last time out, Kainan Krucheski, say what you want about him. He got knocked out bad with Elvis Brenner. He's still a fighting nerds guy. And Kurt Holobaugh walked him down and showed him that, the real man dance favors Holobaugh. And then on the side of Hernandez, like I said, he's getting touched up late by Hubbard, but he looked pretty good in that fight. I'm not trying to shit on him. Damon Jackson lost, but when he's at featherweight, he's not as good. The Bill Algeo loss, which actually aged like shit. Went over Jim Miller 2 years ago at lightweight. So, at lightweight, Alexander Hernandez is a fair amount better than he is at 145, but he himself admits he's kind of an in-betweener. So, going to be at an ever so slight size disadvantage here with Kurt Holobaugh, and I think the gritty Kurt Holobaugh has to be the pick. He's going to be in the face of Hernandez the whole fight. I could even see him looking to attempt to mix in some grappling exchanges and maybe even getting Hernandez down, because we saw Hubbard have some success with that. And then as far as in the pocket striking, I favor Holobaugh, and I have a hard time seeing Hernandez knocking Holobaugh out, and I have a real hard time seeing Hernandez outstrike Holobaugh for 3 rounds and keep it moving laterally on him. I think in that apex cage, that's the Holobaugh territory. It's exactly where he wants it. In Hernandez's face all fucking night. I'm going Kurt Holobaugh to win. And another pick that the odds surprised me. Holobaugh's the dog. Holobaugh's the dog. Ultimate Fighter winner. Fucked up Hubbard a lot worse than Hernandez did. I don't get the odds, man. Plus 155 for Holobaugh. Hernandez minus 180. Interesting. The lines are interesting. I like the underdog a lot. Over 2.5. Bro, just give me the dog. Give me the underdog. Give me Kurt Holobaugh to outdog Hernandez. Makes perfect sense to me. This is kind of a key Holobaugh fight. Like, this is the style that he likes, these type of matchups. And I feel like it favors him substantially. I feel like it's going to be a pretty quality win for him. I think he's in Hernandez's face for all 3 rounds. Man, Holobaugh's 38, but he's one of those fucking OGs that you can't look at the numbers and say, oh, well, the age, and I'm going to write him off. Nah. Kurt Holobaugh's in this thing, and I think Kurt Holobaugh is going to bring some violence to Hernandez and pull off an impressive win. So I'm going with Kurt Holobaugh as the dog over Alexander Hernandez here. Let's keep it running. Next fight, featured fight. We got Kevin Vallejos and Seung-Woo Choi. I mean, this should be pretty clear as day. Kevin Vallejos by knockout in the first 5 minutes, probably. Vallejos is a sensational striking prospect, and his nickname is also El Chino. Shout out to Marcos El Chino Maidana, ex-pro boxer. And, I think that Vallejos is carrying that type of energy, so I'm pretty excited for him. I think the way that he rips shots inside is terrifying, and I think that Seung-Woo Choi being super hittable, okay, and Seung-Woo Choi also kind of being maybe a little bit chinny, this is a bad recipe to take on a Vallejos, who's 14-1. Only loss as a pro is a 3-round fight to Gene Silva, okay, and Gene Silva turned out to be a monster. But Kevin Vallejos was still tough as nails and survived that onslaught. And then coming back the next season to the freaking Contender Series, I mean, he took Bob Ross out. Cam Teague looks just like Bob Ross, beat the shit out of him. Beat the absolute shit out of him in violent fashion. The multi-shot combination to the body, to the head, uppercuts to the body, hook up high. Oh my gosh, the hands are sick. The hands are sick. Kevin Vallejos is an absolute pleasure to watch strike, and I'm telling you right now, violent knockout win, and this kid is going to have a lot of hype in 2025. Bright future. On the side of Seung-Woo Choi, I mean, he's a decent kickboxer from long range, but he's hittable. He makes stupid mistakes. Like with Steve Garcia, he gets hit, and then he's like, okay, let me just wing punches at you. Bro, are you trying to get knocked out? Doesn't seem to adapt to adversity, really. At least, doesn't look like it here with Kevin Vallejos. Not in this type of matchup. Seung-Woo Choi's taking some knockout losses, man. He got KO'd against Garcia, KO'd with Trezano. The win over Jarno Aarons, but I'm not even going to rate that. Really, I think Vallejos has kind of been given the, okay, show us what you got type fight. Guy that is kind of a perfect blank canvas to paint the violent picture of a badass knockout on. Now, I will say Seung-Woo Choi has a good range advantage, 6 feet tall to 5'7", 74.5-inch reach to 68. These are substantial factors. 6.5-inch reach advantage. It's a lot to overcome. But ultimately, Choi being tall, that fucking chin is up, man. And I think the way Vallejos mixes up shots to the body and head, he is going to find the chin of Seung-Woo Choi and flatten him. So Kevin Vallejos with a violent knockout over the journeyman veteran Seung-Woo Choi. I think that it's just Vallejos this time, and he's going to run Choi out of the room. Minus 600, whip the fucking do. Wow, great lines. What the hell? Plus 450 for Choi. It's a Vallejos fight all day long. Over 1.5, minus 155. I think he can go under 1.5. I think Vallejos can get it done earlier. I think he gets it done. 7.5 minutes or less. Vallejos by knockout. Not telling you go run for the under. It's plus 125. I'm picking Vallejos by knockout. Could he do it in the third? Absolutely. Could he win a decision? Sure. But I don't think Seung-Woo Choi can survive the power onslaught that Kevin Vallejos brings to the table. Give me Vallejos in violent fashion, absolutely fucking handling business against Seung-Woo Choi and having a breakout win in a badass UFC debut that we all should be hype as hell for. Next fight on the card, it is the co-main event of the evening. We got Elizeu Zaleski versus Chidi Njokuani. The hardest pick of the night for me. The hardest pick of the night for me by a substantial margin. I'm going to go Elizeu Zaleski. I'm going to do it. And I like Chidi, but I have to go Elizeu Zaleski. Here's why. Because Chidi Njokuani fighting at 85, I like better. He's talked about it a while ago. I saw an interview. Oh, man, I hate cutting to 70. I feel like shit. It's awful for me. Then he's cutting back down to 70. And what you've noticed about his 2 fights at 170 pounds is they have been against guys who, for lack of better terminology, are shit at this UFC level. That's the truth, okay? Win over Reese McKee, it was a unanimous decision. Ignore the split decision bullshit. He beat Reese McKee, and I'm not taking anything away from that win. It was a clean performance. He beat Jared Gooden. Both guys that couldn't really bring too much striking pressure and output out of him, really. Jared Gooden took him down, surprisingly. That shocked me. So, like, he was kind of able to fight at a Chidi Njokuani pace, and then with Jared Gooden, he just fucked him up in the clinch, tie clinch for a lot of the fight, knees to the body, elbows up high, and just, he beat up Jared Gooden, but it's Jared Gooden, man. Alizio Zaleski is a staple of the UFC welterweight division, and he's a really dangerous Brazilian fighter who's good everywhere. You can take positive things away from his most recent loss. He had successful moments against Randy Brown, nearly getting him in that damn rear naked choke. He had great moments against Rinat Fakhretdinov, beating the shit out of him in the third round. Zaleski finishes fights strong, and he brings a pretty good pressure to his opponents and can go a 3 hard. Njokuani can work for 3 rounds at welterweight, but at the end of the day, I don't know how Chidi Njokuani's gas tank looks like later on at, the welterweight division against a guy that's going to put him in uncomfortable spots. Sure, when you're cruising to wins, you can look like you have endless cardio. But when you're taking on a guy that's making it a dogfight, looking to mix in some grappling, I don't know how Chidi Njokuani deals with it. And I know this, Zaleski's jiu-jitsu is quite good. And we've seen Njokuani taken down. Saw it against Gooden, and granted, Gooden's not very good there. You say, oh, well, he submitted Wellington Turman. Please don't talk to me about that fight. That was just weird punches, Turman gassing. That's not even worthwhile to really go deep on. But at the end of it all, I know Zaleski has a capable ground game. Chidi Njokuani's takedown defense holding up normally, what is it, like around a 70% rate? But I could see Zaleski taking his back, and I could see him getting under the neck and choking Njokuani out. There have been submission losses for Njokuani outside of the UFC, but on top of it, too, I don't think Zaleski's a dead man in striking. I know Njokuani's got a big range advantage. He does have good teep kicks up the center, and being 6'3" to Zaleski at 5'11", it's a positive factor that favors Njokuani is distance striking, but he doesn't have a piston-like straight or a, absolute dynamite jab, right? And we saw Zaleski have some moments with Randy Brown, who's very tall, but a different style. Brown is more boxing-based, and Njokuani with the Muay Thai style. But I do believe that as far as fighting from long range and managing distance, I feel like having a sharp jab is a pretty effective tool. And the way that Njokuani stands somewhat in more of a traditionalist Muay Thai striking set, I don't think he has a lot of oomph on his jabs. His dangerous strikes are more in close range, right? When you think of a Chidi Njokuani power shot, you think of a rear elbow, or you think of a knee to the body. Do you think of a Chidi Njokuani stiff straight down the line? Not really. So he's going to need to get into the red zone, which is Zaleski's close range, right? Where he would probably have an edge being the guy with the shorter arms, probably better with hooks. So Chidi Njokuani will then put himself in a position where he could be caught with punches. Zaleski does have real knockout power and true explosiveness. He's still at 38, seems damn good. I don't think he's out of his prime at 38. And, it's not like Njokuani's 29. He's 36, right? Both guys in a similar age bracket. And Zaleski, explosive as hell, can go a 3 hard at welterweight. We've seen it time and time again. I still think he's got some juice left in him. And Njokuani, he lost 3 fights in a row. You can say, oh, well, it was RoboCop. Fair, and he gave RoboCop a nasty cut. The elbow sliced him, that close range striking. And then, Albert Duraev, he ends up losing a close decision. Duraev bringing some wrestling pressure. It is what it is. Weird matchup. And then Michael Jacek knocked him out in the first round. And this was a rough look for Njokuani because he got put down pretty bad in round number 1. He had good moments early in the fight, as, Njokuani does a lot because the Muay Thai is gnarly and close, but then wasn't able to get the finish and just got pieced up, dropped, and violently finished off. Then he decides to do the career change because he kind of had to. He cuts to 170 and, okay wins, but against 2 of the worst guys in the weight class. And now he's fighting Alizio Zaleski, who's a staple of the top 25. Zaleski's really good. Not a ranked contender, but he's pretty close to it. A draw against Rinat Fakhretdinov, nothing to look past. Say what you want. Oh, well, Carlos Leal, this and that. This happened way before. And Alizio Zaleski did damage to Fakhretdinov in that 3rd round. Real damage. And if it was a 5-round fight, there was no doubt Zaleski had that thing won. So Zaleski finishing strong. Then Randy Brown loss is fine. And then an easy win over Zach Scroggs, who came in on short notice. I felt bad for the kid, to be honest. I think that Elizeu Zaleski can win, potentially by submission, but it could be a gritty and close decision, mixing in some grappling. I don't know how Chidi looks in a high-paced fight in round 3 at welterweight. That is my ultimate deciding factor, because I feel as though he's been gifted very favorable matchups, and now the competition level has substantially turned up. Elizeu Zaleski's a staple, man. And having some grappling like he does, submission threat like he does, gas tank like he does, power like he does, I think this could give Chidi Njokuani serious problems. When we get into the 3rd round, if it's a high-paced fight, Njokuani's fighting off takedowns, dealing with punch combinations, getting forced backwards a bit. How does he feel in round 3? Is he exhausted? How does he look? He said cutting to 170 is really hard for him. And I believe it because he's 6'3". He's also 36 cutting to 170. You know, he fought for a while at 85. I don't know how his body responds to these weight cuts consistently. His chin could be gone. Zaleski could catch him with big shots and put him out. Too many red flags around Njokuani, and I know Zaleski still got it. I know he's 38, but he still got it. He fought 4 months ago and looked like an absolute killer. He fought, 9 months before that, a year and 4 months before. Like, he fights at least like every 4 to 6 months. So if you're 38, that's what you want to keep doing. He's like always training, and you can see that because he still looks sharp. Give me Zaleski and give me the win by actually favorite status. Okay. I actually thought Njokuani was going to be the favorite in this one, but all right, Zaleski is the fave. Minus 175 for Zaleski, Njokuani plus 150. I mean, I can see over 1.5, minus 200. I don't know what over 200. I'm not really interested in that. Not in this fight. I want to see what submission looks like for Zaleski. I want to see what win in round 3 looks like for Zaleski. I'm curious about a lot of things, and I feel as though the Njokuani gas tank cutting that extra 15 pounds, and we ain't seen it against a guy putting a pace on him, but I think it could look questionable. So the pick is going to be Elizeu Zaleski in the co-main event to take out Chidi Njokuani. And let's jump to the main event. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the like button, and if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe. We got Marvin Vettori versus Roman Dolidze 2. I'm going with the Italian Dream, part 2. I do think Vettori wins. I know that Dolidze is kind of on a tear right now, and, I got to give respect where it's due. He's won 2 fights in a row, but can we really think about it? He beat Kevin Holland, who then got absolutely wrecked by Rainer de Ritter, and he beat Anthony Smith, who is extremely far past his prime and has essentially no fight left. Fight before that, you know what? Give him respect for going long with Nasruddin Imavov, but let's not act like he didn't get fucked up early in that fight and nearly knocked out. And then the fight before that was the loss to Vettori 2 years ago. Vettori's 31. It's not like Vettori's this aging guy that, took a, year and 8 months off, but he's 36 years old. If he was the same age as Dolidze, maybe it's a different thought process. But okay, he lost to Cannonier, a little bit of an injury, had to take some time off, body recovering, I believe it was the shoulder. Things now slowly but surely coming back together. Marvin Vettori, if you rewatch their first fight, did have successful striking moments in close range and good counter hook from southpaw. Dolidze was kind of just recklessly walking Vettori down with big wild bombs. And I get what you might be thinking. Well, okay, Dolidze could put a pace on him early. He could attack Vettori from the get-go and rip him with big shots. Dolidze throws big wild shots, but he really doesn't have like actual power. Like, he hits with some thud. I'm not trying to say he has no pop in his hands, but it's more like wild and clunky looping shots, not really like precise, crisp boxing combinations. So the precision of those shots isn't great. And the fact is, like, even if it hits Vettori hard in the face, he's seeing it coming. So he's probably going to be able to like at least slightly roll with it. And if you see it coming, it's easier to like not get flashed by, And I feel like Dolidze's grappling is kind of a non-factor in this fight. Vettori's always had pretty damn good takedown defense. He's kind of made of just cinder block. That's what Vettori is. It never looks too technical, but he's really tough. He doesn't quit, and he just keeps on keeping on. And Roman Dolidze, over the course of 5 rounds, we've seen it before, but I think looking at their first fight, I think to myself, okay, if that was 5 rounds, I think Vettori would have snatched up the 4th and 5th. And I'm feeling like it could look somewhat similar. I think Vettori can win some key exchanges in closer range. I think Vettori will actually be better prepared for like the wild and spastic striking of Dolidze this time out. I was like, he never fought him before. And it's like Dolidze's stand up is not a key part of his game. He likes to showcase a lot of grappling, but it was like, okay, he's fighting Dolidze, and now Dolidze just winging these big shots. Now Vettori in his mind's like, okay, I know he might go for this crazy shit, and he'll be more prepared to block it. And I think the counters are going to be there for him because he's relatively sharp. His hands are not that bad. We shit on Vettori a lot, but he's really not bad if you sit and watch. He's pretty well versed and got an iron chin. I don't think Dolidze is shutting his lights off. And I think Dolidze better be prepared for 5 hard rounds. And I feel like I favor Marvin Vettori to put it on Dolidze over a 5 hard rounds as opposed to Dolidze putting it on a Vettori for 5 hard. That's not what I see. So my pick is going to be Marvin Vettori to beat Roman Dolidze a second time and flatten the tires of momentum that Roman Dolidze got going for himself right now. I think Vettori in the pocket can win key exchanges. I think that he'll deal with Dolidze's pressure attack. If Dolidze's looking to wrestle, I expect Vettori to defend the takedowns pretty nicely and have some successful striking moments, take more rounds over to 5, and I'll say 49-46, maybe 48-47. Marvin Vettori via unanimous decision is going to be the official pick in this fight. And he's looking to snap back into place. The Cannonier loss. Before that, it was the win over Dolidze. Prior to that, the Robert Whittaker loss, but you can't really knock him that hard. Win over Paulo Costa 3 years ago. I mean, that was pretty badass because he dealt with Costa's best shots and it had to be up in weight. So that was pretty good. Adesanya lost. There's nothing to really, nothing to be like, oh, shit at. His losses are against top caliber guys. I mean, Jared Cannonier, still in his 40s, just fucked up Gregory Rodriguez. So I think that Vettori's loss to him, very forgivable. And I think he can snap things back into place with a hard-fought win in a rematch with Roman Dolidze. So I'm going Vettori to 2-0 Dolidze. I have to favor him. This is actually, 2 weekends in a row that the main or co-main event has a rematch taking place. And I think for a second time, the guy who won first time out takes it again. I think it could look similar, but now we got 5 rounds, which I think that gives Vettori even more of an edge. I actually like Vettori more in a 5-round fight. If it was a 3-round fight, I think I'd be more worried. If this was the co-main event and it was 3 rounds, they were running it back, I don't know. I think maybe Dolidze could have squeezed out 2. But seeing 5, I favor Vettori over the 5. Give me Vettori for the dub. He's a -140 favorite. Dolidze +120 is the dog. I'll say that Vettori can snap things back on track. I get it. He's been out for a bit, but I feel like he's a competitor, man. He can get back into it. Dolidze fighting against Kevin Holland, not a super high level match, beating up Anthony Smith up in weight, kind of impressive, but doesn't tell me enough. I think Marvin Vettori stands tall in this one, and I think he wins a unanimous decision. I do think we're going over 4.5 at -215. I'm saying Marvin Vettori on the judges' scorecards to beat Roman Dolidze for a second time and 2-0 him in the main event of UFC Vegas 104. Those are the predictions for the full card. I hope you guys enjoyed them. You guys know I enjoyed breaking this whole thing down. This was a fun card to actually look into, and I know a ton of people hate Apex cards, and it's going to be a lot of negativity towards this card. But actually, when you spend time looking at the matchups, there's actually some really compelling fights. So I'm pretty damn excited. I like high-level fights. I like them every single week. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you all smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Hit subscribe, turn the post notifications on, and put them on all, not this personalized, because you don't want to miss a video or live stream. I'm live every day of the week, bringing the thunder, at least, Monday through Saturday. Sunday, full card picks day, which I'm dropping right here. And let me know in the comments what you thought of the picks. I want to hear from the people. If you got nothing to say in the comments, but just enjoy the content, make sure you drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thank you guys for watching. Last week was sensational with UFC 313, the Savage Dog Lock, a Gaethje coming through. So I'm riding the high with that, and I'm damn excited for this one because things are feeling real good. Thanks, guys. I'm signing off. I'll see you later. Peace out. Much love. Bye-bye.